Hi, I'm Ben Solomon. This video blog's topic is the Gravity Modification workshop that I will be conducting this August 20th, 2014 as a webcast. This will be a very interesting topic to attend. The workshop is titled Gravity Modification Workshop. The purpose is to make the new physics and engineering accessible to engineers. What does this workshop accomplish? It accomplishes three things: ability to develop new launch technologies, improve return on research funding, and a knowledge of gravity modification physics and technology. There are two examples of new launch technologies, and from there you can go out and think of your own versions of launch technologies. Improve return on research funding because we are recognizing the issues in physics that are not feasible today, and therefore we can avoid funding experiments that are not going to result in possible solutions within the near future in a reasonable amount of time. And we'll learn how to figure out how to construct new engineering research projects. Gravity modification physics that's been solved. For the long workshop, which is 2 days, the Excel models will be provided, not for this short workshop, which is 1 day. And we'll give you some idea on how to construct your own experiments and research programs with respect to gravity modification specifically. Critical need to move forward. Our tools and not our minds are the problem. If 100,000 of our brightest minds have not been able to solve the gravity modification physics in the last 100 years, then the problem is not with our minds, but with our tools. I solved the gravity modification problem, gravity modification physics, with the discovery of the massless formula for gravitational acceleration g is equal to tau c squared, and the discovery of non-inertia Nye fields. And since this equation has no mass, that means you're not expelling mass, you don't need to know the mass. This is the new propulsion equation that will drive the invention of new types of engines. But you will say, wait a minute, how do you do that without thrust? Well, look at the gravitational field. The gravitational acceleration in a gravitational field is independent of the mass of the object that's falling into it. And therefore, since this formula works for electromagnetic and mechanical accelerations, by Occam's razor, this is a much better model than quantum theory, because quantum theory requires a different particle for each force. Virtual photons for electromagnetic forces, and quantum theory assumes that mechanical forces are basically electromagnetic forces. Gravitons for gravity, and two other particles for weak nuclear forces and strong nuclear forces. We don't go into those because there's no commercial value in knowing how to model weak and strong nuclear forces with this equation. And so therefore, by Occam's razor, g is equal to tau c squared is a superior model of nature for macro forces. This is the workshop overview. It's divided into 5 modules: introduction, current fallacies, time travel, tools and models, and engineering design. And these are the sub modules within each of these, and we'll look at this in a minute. So the first module is introduction. It consists of who I am, the client directive. I did find the client directive in 2012, and that is perspective on how to do new physics and new engineering. The types of theories. We need to know types of theories because we don't want to spend time, we don't want to spend money on working on theories that are not going to give us solutions soon. Let the National Science Foundation, the Kavli Institute, and other such large academic institutions, let them fund the research programs that are going to take years, decades, maybe hundreds of years to solve. That is the place to get funding for those sort of projects. New definitions, we'll talk about all the new definitions we're going to look at. And then there is this impeller emergence. Classical emergence, we'll discuss the difference between classical emergence and impeller emergence. Impeller emergence has 7 properties which I've proposed. Classical emergence is not well defined. Second workshop is current fallacies, and we have to go back and look at what is rigor and falsifiability. How should peer review be working? Then we look at interstellar rocket concept issues, and we'll see here the LQBI type warp drives. I've put this under concept issues. NASA is funding this, the early stage research of this, and they are the right people to fund this, even though I believe this is a fallacy, and I'll explain why. They are the right people because it will take a ton of money, and if there is a very strong likelihood that this is not going to work, they are the right people to fund it, because we need to prove or disprove. As a society, we need to prove or disprove that this is going to work or not going to work. So they are the right people to do it. For the purpose of gravity modification, these are problems. These are all the things we want to avoid. We'll talk a little bit about feasibility and commercial success. We'll talk about there are 12 to 14 inconsistencies. Actually, there are more, but these are what I compiled and published in my Journal of Modern Physics paper. Then we'll talk about process models. In Module 3, we'll talk about a time travel universe versus a non-time travel universe. And this is an example why, when we compare 2 scenarios, one that's possible, one that's not possible, we can extract out lessons about physics, about engineering, and we'll talk about why censorship is actually the wrong approach to resolving time travel problems. And then in tools and modules, this is a long workshop because there are 80 slides here. We'll discuss how to design Excel worksheets, because these worksheets are 100 megabytes easily, and you don't want to come back 2 years later and say, what was I doing? What was I thinking? How do you figure out what's going on in this worksheet? If you have a clear idea of how to design worksheets, large, gigantic worksheets, then you'll come back 2, 3, 4, 5 years later and you look at it and you say, oh yeah, I know what I was doing. We look at mechanical acceleration using g is equal to tau c squared. We look at gravitational acceleration also using g is equal to tau c squared. And we'll look at electromagnetic acceleration also using g is equal to tau c squared. And there's a new piece, which is the new electric field model. I have completed electron motion in a charge and charge plates with the new electric field model. I'm still working on this. I'm close to a final solution. I have an exact solution here. I have an approximate solution. It's just a matter of time when I have an exact solution here. The reason for this, to understand that Poincare stresses don't exist. That is the basic message here. Not that we're going to substantially and radically change electrical field theory. It is to show that Poincare stresses don't exist. What are Poincare stresses? Electron has electric field coming out, and these fields are repulsive, and very strong forces are acting on the electron. And so, to counter those electric field repulsive forces, there are stresses called Poincare stresses that are acting on the electron. And what I'm saying with the new electric field model is that these Poincare stresses go away. You want to know how? Attend the workshop. And the fifth and final piece is engineering design. We look at rotating, spinning, late weights rotating spinning disk. Classical mechanics cannot give you a solution to this. A lot of people have claimed, but they have not. They've claimed that it cannot be done. They have claimed they have done it. But bottom line is, you must have a solution that matches the observation. Nobody using classical mechanics has a solution that matches the observation. But with knife fields, you can find a solution, and this is a possible launch vehicle. So this is one idea of how to build alternative launch vehicles. With Podklenov's observation based on his 92 and 97 paper, we can now propose a gravitational column launch. It's a new vehicle. And then we look at the superconducting disk, which is his work based on his 92 and 97 paper. Look at this and see if it's possible to reproduce these shielding effects without using superconducting magnets. The long workshop has engineering design issues, which we will not cover in this short workshop. I am principal investigator and the presenter. I am founder and chairman of the Exodus One Foundation. I've been researching gravity modification since 1999 and have published or presented a paper at a conference every year, almost every year, 13, 14 papers at conferences to maintain a track record of what I've been doing. From 2009 onwards, the papers have been peer-reviewed by physicists and engineers. On board the Exodus One Foundation, we have our Chief Science Officer, Dr. Andrew Beckwith, who has a PhD in condensed matter theory from the Texas Center for Superconductivity out of Houston. And he has vetted the material here and has given his okay. I discovered knife fields and the gravitational massless equation. One more thing I've done, which is not in this workshop, which will be in a subsequent workshop, I've shown that the photon probability is not Gaussian, but it's a gamma. From that, I've been able to unify shielding, invisibility, cloaking, resolution, transmission into a single phenomena. And also shown that shielding and invisibility are complementary phenomena, cloaking and resolution are complementary phenomena. So this simplifies physics substantially. A 12-year study titled An Introduction to Gravity Modification. This is published and available on Amazon, and have many numerous peer-reviewed papers. Workshop detail, title is Gravity Modification Workshop. I'm the presenter. 85 Mountain Daylight Savings Time, which is the time in Colorado. Webcast, so you can watch it from your own PC. You can participate from your own PC. Date is Wednesday, August 20th, 2014. $100 introductory fee for the workshop, and tax deductible because it's coming through the Exodus One Foundation. If you are based in the US, if you are watching this from the US, you have to register by August 13th because I need to know how many people will be attending. I have to make resources available. Materials, because it's a short workshop at only $100, electronic PDF copies of the slides will be provided, emailed to participants, or made available through the webcast product I will be using. Most likely it will be WebEx, but I haven't made a final decision. You can use any tablet, notebook, or PC with a web browser that can open PDF files. Remember, it will be your responsibility to make sure that the webcast software works in your environment. So to be on the safe side, I would suggest you stick with a PC. Contact details, bts@exodusonefoundation.org. Make payments by August 13th. And since this webcast, if we are overbooked, we will, on a first-come, first-served basis, we will allocate the first group to August 13th, and then subsequent groups to the next working days. So August 14th, 15th, and after the weekend. This is only valid for the long workshop. The link to the workshop schedule is here. It's one of the pages on the WordPress type website. And if you would like to make additional donations, we are always willing to accept. There's a donation page. Thank you.